Step into a new day. We can rise up from the dust and walk away.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Peace. Roll call.
Cole.
Here.
Nikki. Here. Sarah.
Here. Sorry, I was waving at a neighbor.
Owens.
Here.
Kinsley.
Here.
Bradford. Tatum.
Here.
Lemmings.
Here.
Bass.
Here. You have a copy of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Motion was made by Lemmings, second by Phillips to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have a copy of the treasurer's report. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Motion to approve by Tatum, second by Nikki Brown. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the treasurer's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have emailed to you a copy of the appropriations analysis. I would entertain a motion to approve the appropriations analysis.
So be it. Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Holt, a second by Tatum to approve the appropriations analysis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brings us to the county road and equipment report. The crew has worked much of the month continuing the greater routes to get as many roads completed as possible. We have another 20,000 ton blast scheduled at Formosa Quarry for next week. That needs to be corrected to maybe even tomorrow. It's coming right up. They're drilling the holes now. We are in the process of scheduling a blast for the North Quarry that we own. It will be a 20,000 ton blast as well, and it will feed the projects on Peyton Mountain Road and Archie Road. Crews are mowing as fast as we can between the rain events. We are still trying to get disaster work done. Not really disaster, we didn't claim a disaster, but flood damage done on Clella Circle, Dorothy Drive, and Lake Cliff Road. From all those washouts, we worked on Moore Road and fixed that area. We have begun the Porter Road improvement project. That should be completed next week. And other projects later in the year include Calico Road, Casey Lane, Pinewood, Cavern, Oiler, and others. Any questions? The sheriff left a copy of the sheriff's report. Does anyone have any questions for Randy Churches? Okay. Are there any county boards that would like to address the court?
Can we back up a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Randy,
Yes, sir.
I see we got 51 traffic stops in May. Are most of those on 65?
They're going to be all over the county. Each deputy likes to work different areas, so
Okay.
it's going to be all over the county.
All right. We got a lot of brazen people coming through Clinton right now doing 65 and 70 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
I know we can't have everybody out there, but
Yes. And we're limited as far as radars and stuff like that.
sure. I understand. Unless you're following them, you really can't.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for him? All right. Elected officials or county or Mayor Wellenberger, would you like to address the court? It's nice to have you with us tonight.
You just did the road, so I can, as I talked to you, we would love to buy all the gravel you guys can produce. So that creates jobs for the county road crews to crush gravel. We sure are going to do a lot of new gravel this year. So
We're going to be able to help him with a couple of projects. We can't supply all the gravel because we're just need to use all we can produce right now. But hopefully we can get to that.
yeah, if
position.
we can mean jobs for the county, that's good, and save us some money too. That's a win-win for both sides. So we'd like to say that. I stand in support of the hospital. I know that those guys are going to probably go with the November election, but whenever it is, I can tell you my wife is a big beneficiary of the capabilities of our little hospital here. It's amazing she doesn't have to go to Little Rock to go get the testing done that she needs, and we have everything we need right here from the blood lab to the MRI equipment. So we are blessed to have this hospital, and we need to continue to support it. That's a real plus for this whole, not just for Van Buren County, but this whole region. And I can tell you, being a volunteer ambulance driver and going to both Heber and Ozark, we have far surpassed the Heber operation, or our emergency room has. So anyway, I just want to say I really support what's going on with the hospital, and so we did break ground on the survival flight helicopter hangar, and the equipment to start pushing dirt around arrives tomorrow, and the metal building is supposed to get there at the end of July. So I'm hoping by at least by mid-November, if not sooner, that we have helicopter service located in Van Buren County, which is a real thing, a real positive for the entire county. And somebody maybe in this room's life's going to be saved because we have that close. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Court, do you have any questions for any of the elected officials or county boards that are with us? Okay, we will move on to our new business. First order of business is our ordinance sponsored by Dale Holt.
An ordinance calling and setting a date for a special election in question of levy of general local sales and use tax at the rate of 0.5%, 0.50, for the purposes described herein, leveling such general local sales and use tax and prescribing other matters pertaining to thereof. Whereas the buildings and property occupied and operated by Ozark Health Medical Center for the purpose of serving the health care needs of the citizens of Van Buren County, Arkansas, and surrounding areas are owned by Van Buren County, Arkansas. And whereas the Van Buren County Quorum Court has determined that additional revenues are needed to finance critical operation and maintenance expenses and capital improvement costs of Ozark Health Medical Center, and that such revenues can be obtained through the levy of the sales use tax described below. Whereas Title 26, Chapter 74, Subchapter 2 of the Arkansas Code of 1987 annotated the county sales and use tax authorizes the levy of countywide sales and use tax in increments of 1/8 of 1%, 0.125%. And whereas, if approved by the electors of the county has determined to levy a half 1 cent, 0.50, general county-wide sales and use tax under the authority of the County Sales and Use Tax Act, the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax, for the purpose of funding operation and maintenance expenses and capital improvement costs of Ozark Health Medical Center, which is 0.50 medical center sales and use tax, shall cease as of December 31st, 2036. And whereas the purpose of this ordinance is to call a special election of the levy of the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax by the county and for related purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, Section 1, that under the authority of the county sale and use tax is subject to approval by the electors of the county of the question set forth in Section 3 below, there is hereby levied a sales tax at the rate of 1/2 of 1%, 0.50, on the gross receipts from the sale at retail within the county of all items and services which are subject to taxation under the Arkansas Gross Receipts Acts of 1941, as amended, Arkansas Code of 1987, annotated 26-52-101 et seq. And 2, an excise or use tax at the rate of 1/2 of 1%, 0.50, on the storage, use, distribution, and other consumption within the county of tangible personal property or taxable service subject to taxation under the Arkansas Compensating Tax Act of 1949, as amended, Arkansas Code of 1987, annotated 26-53-101 et seq. On the same price of the property, or in the case of leases or rentals, on the lease or rental price, collectively the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax. The 0.50 medical center sales and use tax shall be levied, and the next collections received after deduction of the administrative charges State of Arkansas, and required rebates shall be utilized to the extent required only for the purpose of funding operation and maintenance expenses and capital improvement costs of Ozark Health Medical Center. The 0.50 medical center sales and use tax will be levied and collected on the gross receipts and gross proceeds or sales price in the maximum amount allowed from time to time under Arkansas law, subject to rebates and limitation as required, as required for certain single transactions, as from time to time required under Arkansas law. The levy and the collection of the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax shall commence on and as of such a date in the county sales and use tax acts and shall cease on December 31st, 2036. Section 2. That there be and there is hereby called a special election to be held on Tuesday, November the 3rd, 2020, at which election there shall be submitted to the electors of the county the question of the levy of the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax. Section 3. That the question shall be placed on the ballot for the special election in substantially the following form. Special election on county sales and use tax levy. There is submitted to the qualified electors of Van Buren County, Arkansas, the question of the levy of 1/2 of 1%, 0.50 sales and use tax. The 0.50 medical center sales and use tax under the authority of Title 26, Chapter 74, Subchapter 2 of the Arkansas Code of 1987, annotated the county sales and use tax. And the net collections which will be distributed to the county shall be utilized solely for the payment of costs, expenses associated with the operation, maintenance, and capital improvements of the facility known as Ozark Health Medical Center, which is owned by the county. The levy and collection of the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax shall commence on and of such a date as provided by Arkansas law, and shall cease on December 31st, 2036. Vote on the question by placing an X in one of the squares following the question, either for or against. For the adoption of 1/2 of 1% of 0.50 medical center sales and use tax within Van Buren County, Arkansas, the net collections of such tax to be distributed only to the county and used for the purposes related to Ozark Health Medical Center described above. Against the adoption of 1/2 of 1% 50 medical center sales and use tax within Van Buren County, Arkansas, the net collections of such tax to be distributed only to the county and used for the purposes related to Ozark Health Medical Center described above. Section 4. That the election shall be held and conducted and the vote canvassed and the results declared under the law in the manner now provided for Arkansas County elections, unless otherwise provided in the County Sales and Use Tax Act, and only qualified voters of the county shall have the right to vote at the election. Section 5. That a copy of this ordinance shall be given to the Van Buren County Board of Election Commissioners at least 70 days prior to the date of the special election, so that the necessary election officials and supplies may be provided. Certified copy of this ordinance shall be provided to the Director of the Department of Finance and Administration and to the Treasurer of the State of Arkansas as soon as practical. Section 6. That the results of the special election shall be proclaimed by the county judge, and his proclamation shall be published one time in a newspaper or general circulation within the county. The proclamation shall advise that the results as proclaimed shall be conclusive unless attacked in the Circuit Court of Van Buren County within 30 days after the date of publication of the proclamation. Section 7. That the county judge and the county clerk for and on behalf of the county be and thereby are authorized and directed to do any and all things necessary to call and hold the special election as herein provided. And I, if the levy of the 0.50 medical center sales and use tax is approved by the electors, to cause the 0.50 medical center sale and use tax to be collected in accordance with the County Sales and Use Tax Act, and 2, to perform all the acts where of nature necessary to carry out the authority conferred by this ordinance. Section 8. That the provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be severable, and if any provision shall be in any reason be held illegal or invalid, such holding shall not affect the validity of the remainder of this ordinance. Section 9. That all ordinances and parts thereof in conflict within are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. I move we approve this ordinance.
I second.
Okay, a motion's been made by Holt and seconded by Nikki Brown to approve this ordinance. This ordinance does not have an emergency clause, and it will require 3 readings. At this time, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to conduct the next two readings at this meeting by title only.
So moved.
Okay.
It's moved by Phillips. Is there a second for the
Second.
suspension? And second by Holt for the rule suspension for the purpose of entertaining this ordinance two more times at this meeting by title only. A roll call vote for suspension.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Thank you. Justice Holt, would you care to read the second time by title only, please?
An ordinance calling and setting a date for a special election on the question of the levy of general local sales and use tax at the rate of 1/2%, 0.50, for the purposes described herein, levying such a general local sales and use tax and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Okay. And the third and final reading, please.
An ordinance calling and setting a date for a special election in question of the levy of general local sales and use tax at the rate of 1/2% to 0.50, for the purposes described herein, levying such general local sales and use tax and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you very much. Open discussion.
I just have one question here. One is, and I think I know the answer, but for the people, why is this called a special election?
I think I can respond to that. It's because it's a special question, even though it's not a general election. It is a special election because it's not a normally scheduled election of a person running for office. So the statute actually says in the statute, it's the title of the ballot question is special election.
And just to clarify, since our last meeting, so the changes or the updates from when we last spoke about this to when we're speaking about it now is, I'll make sure and understand. Put an end date on it, so where before it didn't have an end date, correct? Moved it from a special election to the general election. And then with that, moved it back a little, so from September to November. Is that most of the changes that were in here?
And that made it not need to be an emergency ordinance.
Okay.
And you've got to get it to the election commission 70 days ahead instead of 60 days ahead. That's a difference in state law.
Any other discussion among the JPs? Is there any public comment concerning this ordinance? Okay. Roll call vote?
Just a second, I'd like to say something.
Yes.
I understand the importance of our hospital, and how we need our hospital here, but I just don't know that this is a great time for a tax to be put on people who are already having difficulty in their day-to-day lives. And so I think if we go back in March, when it was on the election before, the people voted that it was they didn't want it. I mean, it didn't pass. And so I hate to dump money into something again that why 6 months later, if people are going to say, yes, we need it now, when we already said they didn't want it. That's my question.
I think the reason that happened was what we had it all rolled up with the library. The library was the real problem, not the hospital. And it just got convoluted. The whole thing got convoluted.
But each one of them was separate. The fire department's passed, so that part of it passed, and it's in place now.
Yep.
The hospital would have, if it would have passed, it would have been in place also.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of confusion. The way the ordinance read, it did not say what this ordinance says. It did not say that we own the building, we own the property.
Right.
We do. We
I
have to keep
understand that. Until we got to take care of it. But I'd love to have new equipment on my business, but I can't afford it right now. You know, I mean, there's things that we have to do in tough times to accommodate the direction we're going. And I think, you know, we're getting ourselves out there again for asking the people, when we're talking about a jail that needs to be redone. We've got all these different projects in our county that's going to have to be looked at. And we're putting ourselves out there in a tough position to come back and ask for money from the voters again when you're on a situation like this.
Yes, and we have a great hospital.
Yep.
And I've been there and we've used it several times. If you don't support this hospital and it goes away, we're going to be in a bad way.
my deal is this, is I don't feel that it's my right to say that somebody can't vote on something. It's up to the electors, it's up to the people. If they don't want it, they're gonna vote against it. It's pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. If they want it, they're gonna vote for it. I don't feel comfortable sitting here saying, no, you can't put it on the ballot. Who am I to say that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's up to the people. That's the way I feel. And if they don't want it, they're going to vote against it. And as I explained to Mr. Deaton, it's going to be up to them to go out and talk to the people and sell this. They're going to have to sell it to me. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm for or against, but there's a lot of questions that have to be answered, and I think it's going to be up to them to come out and sell this. But I don't feel comfortable sitting here and saying, no, you can't put it on the ballot. You know, people can't vote on it. No, I'm not going to do that.
I think that was misconstrued a little bit by the public from what I've heard. And I called around and asked, you know, what their initial problems were with the previous election, and it was that it was too wordy. Most people voted no to everything because it was too wordy. I think it's important, like Ryan, to say that just because we vote to put it on the ballot doesn't mean we're for or against. It's our duty to allow, you know, the citizens of this county the chance to vote. So, I mean,
I completely agree with what Brian said. You know, I think if they don't want it, we've learned that they will not vote for it. And I agree that the last one was too wordy. I admitted myself that I didn't understand it when it came down to it. And Virgil, on what you said, and I completely understand at hard times, I think of it a little bit different because I think of it, we are in hard times. And this is one of the biggest employers in the county.
Well, I agree with that.
And if we lost 300 jobs, we'd really be in hard times. I mean, and the other thing is, you know, when we're wanting to attract people and businesses, I think the top two that people look at when they're looking at a place to move is their schools and their hospital. And if they don't have a hospital, very likely they're going to pass on coming. I mean, so I think in hard times, my opinion is the hospital is the most important. And especially, I mean, just to call it out, we've never wore a mask before. You know, we're all here wearing masks in a whole new world, and I just think right now the hospital is important for our county.
Well, I just think the hospital is part of the major infrastructure of the county. I mean, let's look at it. It's one of the biggest infrastructures right now of the county. You know, but you know, once again, that's going to be up to the hospital and the hospital board and all the people to sell it to the people. I mean, there's a lot of questions to be asked, and I talked to some of them about setting up meetings and answering question and answer sessions at the fire departments and stuff where you can invite the people in. But there's a lot of people out there that's got a lot of the questions, and of course they get their answers off of Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, you know, and that's not the place to get it. It needs to come from them. And I've expressed that concern to them, and it'll be up to them to do that.
I think another thing that also needs to be addressed, and I didn't know this until I was doing my EMT license, the level of trauma centers, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, what you're capable, not what you're capable of doing, but what you're allowed to do, what you're set up to do versus what, you know, a doctor is a doctor. They, you know, but people need to be educated on the differences in the level of trauma centers and what ours is versus, I mean, we get called a Band-Aid station, but it's much more than that. I think people need to be educated on what those guidelines are based on the level of trauma centers.
When I read the ballot to vote, which I'm one of those guys who reads everything, it was clear that the hospital was tied to the library. And it was clear to me that there was no tie for the fire department to the library. It was no language about the library in the ballot initiative to fund the firemen. And the hospital barely failed, and I guarantee you the people of Fairfield Bay who pay for their own library with private donations are not interested in voting, to support Clinton's library. And it's not Clinton versus Fairfield Bay, it's just, we've already got our library we pay for. And it being tied to the library, it barely failed. It will pass Fairfield Bay if it's just a hospital. We'll have enough votes swing, which is only, I think it failed 150 or 154 or something. There'll be enough vote swing, I think, to pass it in Fairfield Bay by itself. So I'm just saying the language was extremely confusing, too long, too confusing. But I read the hospital thing as being tied to the library, and I read the fire department as not being tied to the library when I read all the initiatives. So anyway, that's just my opinion.
Well, what I just asked that the people, because there's a bunch of people against it, and I understand that, okay? But what I ask is that if you have a question, come to one of these meetings, come to the right people, and ask the questions. Because whenever it gets on social media, it can go many different ways. And come talk to them face to face so you can get the answers that you want instead of, and hopefully there'll be quite a few of these meetings. I know I've talked to one of the board members and they're going to try to get those set up. He had even made the recommendation to go to the fire departments and have the people from that area come to the fire departments to ask questions and whatever. But that'll be up to them to set all that up. But hopefully we can do that because I know there's a lot of questions out there that people have or comments, But.
Any other discussion?
I have one question. How, since this is the second round, we're putting it on the general election, who pays for that process? As far as creating their ballot, adding the ballot, does that fall back, the financial constraints, does that fall back on the county? Or is that something that Ozark Health takes care of?
But it'll be on the same ballot.
So the expenses incurred come from the county? Okay.
What kind of expenses are you talking about?
There's really no extra expense because it's on the same ballot.
I was really pleased to see that, to go to the November ballot instead of being a single item thing. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the robust discussion. You guys are doing great. Anything else? Roll call vote.
Holt?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Tatum?
Yes.
Lemmings?
No.
Bass?
Yes.
Thank you. Our next ordinance is also sponsored by Justice Holt.
Being enacted by the Quorum Board of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, in order to be entitled an emergency ordinance amending sections of the personnel policy. Whereas the personnel policy was updated with ordinance 2020-16, although some sections were incorrect, this ordinance will correct those sections and should be retroactive. Whereas on page 14, 5, employee classification, attendance and compensation. Employee compensation should state the county's office hours for normal businesses are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And whereas page 21D, paid leave, one sick leave should state sick leave accrues to all eligible employees. The parole begins after 6 months probationary period at the rate of 4 hours bi-weekly per pay. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Code of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that section 1, the Van Buren County personnel policy be amended under sections 5A, employee classification, page 14, and section D1, sick leave on page 21, as stated above. Section 2, this ordinance being necessary for the preservation of public health and safety and welfare is thereby declared that an emergency exists and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from the time and after its passage. I say we approve this ordinance.
We have a motion by Holt and a second by Phillips to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-18.
Thank you. Next, we have a resolution sponsored by Justice Taylor.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court, County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, "A Resolution authorizing the county judge of Van Buren County to purchase a John Deere 410L backhoe loader, to trade in a 2015 Case 590 Super N backhoe, and to transfer $45,000 from 2000-0200-9999 transfers out to 2000-0200-4004 machinery and equipment. Whereas the Van Buren County Road Department owns a 2015 Case 590 Super N backhoe, and whereas the Case backhoe has been constantly in need of repair, and whereas the County Road Department had to rent a backhoe to complete work while the Case was being repaired, and whereas John Deere, through Stribling Equipment LLC, has offered to sell the rental backhoe for the state procurement price and give the county full credit for all rent paid, which was $15,840. And whereas the price breaks down as follows: the 410L backhoe loader, $102,840 state bid pricing. Trade-in of Case 590 Super N, $42,000. Rent applied, $15,840. The total of $45,000. Therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court, Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the county judge, Van Buren County, is hereby authorized to make the purchase as described and authorize the transfer of $45,000 from 2000-0200-9999 transfers out to 2000-0200-4004 machinery and equipment. I move as approved as written.
Second.
It's been motioned by Tatum, second by Brown, Sarah Brown, to adopt this ordinance. Any discussion?
How'd you get them to pay the rent?
Their business is so bad that they're willing to deal with us. But that Case backhoe that we have, that thing's been down more than it's been up. And I don't know, we probably should have, back when it was newer, they probably should have claimed a limit on it. But it's what it is. We have a good opportunity to get an excellent one that we've operated and we know and it works great. So, any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-17.
Thank you. Our next resolution will be read by Justice Sarah Brown.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, "A Resolution authorizing the county judge of Van Buren County to enter into an administrative agreement with White River Planning and Development District Incorporated." Whereas the Shirley Volunteer Fire Department is applying to the Arkansas Economic Development Commission for a rural services block grant. The grant will be used for fire protection improvements for the Shady Grove substation, and whereas the County of Van Buren requires assistance to identify and implement the regulations pertaining to the said grant, and whereas it will be necessary for the county judge to act in connection with the administrative agreement. Therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the county judge of Van Buren County be authorized to execute an agreement with White River Planning and Development District Incorporated to provide administrative services to the county, such costs and contract formats to be approved by AEDC. I make a motion to approve the written.
Second.
We have a motion by Sarah Brown, second by Mary Phillips to adopt this resolution. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt.
Yes.
Vicky.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Hensley.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-18.
Thank you. Our next resolution will be sponsored and read by Justice Lemmings.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution being entitled, a resolution authorizing the county judge of Van Buren County to apply for a grant on behalf of the Denard Volunteer Fire Department. Whereas the Quorum Court of Van Buren County has determined that the Denard Volunteer Fire Department meets eligibility requirements necessary to apply for a grant under the Rural Service Block Grant Program, RSVGP. And whereas the Quorum Court of Van Buren County is a local unit of general use purpose government that will provide opportunity for input by residents in determining and prioritizing community development needs. And whereas the Quorum Court of Van Buren County recognizes the need for the project, concurs in its importance, and supports the Denard Volunteer Fire Department in its efforts to proceed with the same. And whereas the Denard Volunteer Fire Department has provided proof of ownership of the property and to be enhanced by the project. And whereas the Denard Volunteer Fire Department has provided proof of property value and the amount of, we do not know the amount, to be used as a match. And whereas the Quorum Court of Van Buren County will appropriate the sum of $7,500 received from the Rural Service Block Grant Program for the project entitled Purchase of a Fire Equipment if the project is awarded. Therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the Quorum Court of Van Buren County affirms its commitment to take action within its power to facilitate the receipt of the assistance of the community development funds if the Denard Volunteer Fire Department project is awarded a Rural Service Block grant, and upon receipt to administer such grant by the rules and the regulations established by the United States of America, the state of Arkansas, and empowered of the agencies thereof. I move that we approve this as written.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to adopt by Lemmings and a second by Holt. We'll open discussion, but Mike Banks has a little bit more information as to what this is going to be used for and how much they're going to put up to fill in the blank.
The maximum the grant's allowed is $75,000. That's with a 10% match. Right now, we're getting estimates. We're looking at replacing all our SCBA's with light units so that we don't have a mismatch unit. The SCBA's that we have at the present time, part of them came from forestry 20-some years ago, and they were used then. They were government excess. So with this opportunity to get this grant, we have an estimate now for Drager's is $36,000 and some odd change. For Scott's, it's $55,000. But once you get into the higher level, if we go for the $75,000, it will probably have to be bidded out. But right now we're not looking for the best. We're looking to replace what we have with usable units that will meet the needs of the fire department in the future.
So it's a 90-10, correct?
That's correct.
So the blank would be $750.
No, $7,500.
$7,500?
For $7,000. Be 10-10.
$75,000. Okay, so you're doing $75,000. Gotcha. Okay, excellent.
I don't know that we'll apply for $75,000. That's the amount we can apply for.
Good deal. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote.
Holt?
Yes.
Nikki?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Tatum?
Yes.
Lemmings?
Yes.
Bass?
Yes.
2019.
Okay. Our final order of business, we have one transfer. It is a move of $100 from 3408, 302, 3001 audit/accounting to 3408, 302, 2020 building repairs and supplies to transfer money where needed. This is in the hospital maintenance fund. Do I hear a motion that we
Second.
have a motion and second that we adopt or we approve this transfer? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? It is done. Any other discussion? All the motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Now.
Step into a new